Peace, good people. We are live and direct. This is Black Power Media, and today is a good day for revolution. We welcome you all. We welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Today is a very special presentation. Something that is necessary when we talk about solidarity, when we talk about unification, when we talking about liberation. We uh, we definitely can't do that in these days and times without talking about some of the most oppressed people on the planet. Today, this particular platform and program, we will have a Unite for Peace situation where we are combining the efforts of veteran Black Panther Party members and also uh, Palestinians who have been displaced and who have been, um, attacked for quite a while. This is the Panthers to Palestine edition, uniting global movements to stop the torture and execution of Black Panther political prisoners and Palestinian hostages. Okay, today we will have a few different factions, and to get this thing started, we want to introduce you to our host, or one of our hosts today. One of our hosts for this particular episode, Redhima Hejde. She is a socially conscious artist and creative arts healer born and raised in New York City with ancestors from India. She aims to inspire what she calls a rhythm love revolution. The name of her brand, the name of her band and healing art movement that aims to contribute to the revolution through the power of music and the arts as a way to heal, enlighten, free, love, and unite to create a world where all people can live with equal rights, justice, shine their truth, and be free. She's the founder of Inspired Change, a conscious arts festival, and Unite for Peace, a healing arts vigil and global call to action. We welcome you, Redhima.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is from Unite for Peace, which is a healing arts visual and global call to action, which began during the situation with Palestine, inspired actually by the Uniting for Peace resolution. But really, it's also connected. How do we how do we advocate for solidarity for global movements and unify movements to leverage our people power to actually advocate for change and actions that will actually bring about change and justice and freedom for everyone. So we've been hosting these global assemblies every Sunday, and members from the Black Panthers and from the Red Ribbon Campaign were on the meetings, and that's how this conference came about. So, it's really a first step towards really uniting so many movements globally, and also figuring out ways through diplomatic means, through grassroots means, how do we actually come together and strengthen our movements and take effective actions. So hopefully from the lessons that we learned here today, we can leave here with strategy and some actions and amplify these calls to actions that do exist and the need to be heard. Just wanted to start as we settle in and everyone comes in, maybe just do a little grounding, meditation. Healing is very much at the heart of what we feel is a way to help bring change in the world. So if we could all just take some nice deep breaths, reaching your head to the sky, sit bones to the earth, remembering that the breath is a grounding force, a channel of energy, whatever energy you need, whenever you need it. Keeping in mind political prisoners or hostages all over the world, believing in the power of sending the energy from our hearts to them, and knowing that borders, walls, nothing can keep us from sending energy and love to our loved ones and to people in need. So just taking some deep breaths all the way to our toes, all the way to our fingertips. Breathe in love, hold gratitude, exhale compassion. And just setting the intention for how we can come together honor the martyrs, honor Nakba, what people have been suffering through for so many generations, and rise with love to take action and help free us all, free them all. Remembering the breath is a streaming flow of unity between our inner and outer universe. Let's take 2 more deep breaths. Gently wiggling our toes and opening our eyes and our fingertips. Staying focused on the breathing. I'd like to bring on Spirit Child, who'll be opening up with libations. Just an intro. Spirit Child is a freedom singer, artist from the South Bronx by the way of Staten Island, who uses the arts to cultivate a cultural revolution throughout the world. His eclectic and experimental fusion of true soul, hip-hop, funk, electronic, and jazz continues to break boundaries of the music scene. Spirit Child integrates revolution and hip-hop music throughout all his endeavors as a musician, DJ, soul selector, producer, writer, author, facilitator, and mentor for the youth. He's the co-founder, along with Fred Ho, of a new Black arts movement, organizer and founder of the International Movement in Motion Artists and Activist Collective, vice president of Universal Zulu Nations, Brooklyn Territory, and co-founder and co-leader of the Maroon Party for Liberation and the Maroon Liberation School. Welcome, Spirit Child. It's such a blessing to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. I appreciate it. Peace, everyone. I am honored to be here to set us off with some libations. As many of you out here know, this is how we do in our not just African tradition, but in our tradition of historical struggle. And this is who we are as a people, to remember not to forget our ancestors. So even though we're online, I like to make these things as warm as possible. I know I'm not up there yet in age, and I know there's some elders here. So if I can get just somebody, even in the private chat or in the comments, to give me the blessings and the elder to proceed and move forward with this, I can proceed once I get a go ahead, because that's how we do in our culture and our customs. So, Baba Shep, you could put it in the chat or anywhere. Let me know that we can continue on. All right, cool. We have a glass or water for here for our ancestors. Water is a source of light. We have a candle that I'll light, not just for this event so it can go well, but also traditionally for our ancestors and for the power and strength to free our political prisoners. And so we never forget. I'm gonna light this candle. I'm gonna say a few words, and I know you're at home joining the live stream. You can still participate every time we say a name of someone who's no longer living. We usually say Ashe, so you can say Ashe or Presente. This libation, again, is a spiritual process that we do. It is not necessarily connected to any religion. However, I am a Santero or Yoruba priest of several decades, and I'm honored to be in the community to share this. So I'll proceed, and may we all be well and do well. Omi Tutu, may the water be cool and refreshed. Ona Tutu, may the road be cool and refreshed. Ile Tutu, may the house, the home, our homes, those who are fortunate to have one or any, may be cooled and refreshed. Tutu Lureye, may a calm messenger precede all our prayers. Olodumare, 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 Maferefun Chango, Maferefun Elegba, Marefun Yemia. I'll say some names of our ancestors, and again, you can say Ashe, because we know our brother, dear brother Malcolm, our prince, would have been 101 this week. El Haj Malik El Shabazz, we say Ashe. Yuriko Chiyama, sharing the same birthday as Malcolm, we say Ashe. Lorraine Hansberry as well, sharing a birthday this week with Malcolm and Yuri, we say Ashe. Ho Chi Minh, also sharing a birthday with brother Malcolm, Yuri, and Lorraine, we say Ashe. And because we're connecting our struggles throughout the world and our ancestors throughout the world, those who fought for freedom, one brother I love to always mention in libations, Ghassan Kanafani, PLO, Ashe. All the Palestinian lives, we say Ashe, Ibaye. All people from the Congo, Rwanda, Ashe, Ibaye. All of our great grandmothers and grandfathers, those who've held space for us, those who've lit the path for us to be here, to continue on, to continue to fight. We say Ibaye, Ashe, and we know that you are here with us always. And we also give you song and meditation and prayer. This is for connected struggles, specifically for Asada Shakur, and also for a brother who I met and had the privilege of meeting, a beautiful artist, Honey, exiled from Palestine. I'm gonna kind of merge some things together because of time. When it comes down, don't you be afraid. When it comes down, no matter what name you call, just be ready for it all. I am ready for it all. When it comes down, don't you be afraid. When it comes down, no matter what name you call, just be ready for it all. I write a word for each second we can't touch. The sweetest love, it hurts, we can't touch. We still push. We were united through ancient dust, divided by governments. Revolutions in front of us, the body is supplement. But when you sleep on cold prison floors, it helps to know I laid next to you, keeping warm. And when you trap behind these prison walls, it helps to know we travel with no ceilings, kissing the storm. Your face calm with the light of the moon, midnight likened to you. These memories will keep me fighting for you. And when it's through, I'll be right next to you. I never left, will never leave you, the air that I breathe. Until we free, I proceed with the sharpest of speed, but with the wisdom of the trees. Listen to the breeze. That's me. The rhythm speech in your skin. Raindrops kissing your chin. For us, the reason that I'm here, and I do it again. 'Cause I'm coming, you're not far, in a distance. Waiting, I'm coming, you're not far, resistance. Holding, I'm coming, you're not far, in a distance. Waiting, I'm coming, you're not far, resistance. I'm old school like the beginning of rap, X that, more like the beginning of boom bap, from back, Africa black, red, black, and green, get a black fact. I hit them off and I'm breaking them off, shaking them off, taking them off like the cough. Gotta get them off, gotta get them up to rush and disrupt that boss. Anyway, I'm looking for my getaway. Better days appear to be right away. And I'm ready for this, the black fist make catalyst for the resistance. Instance in this moment in time, moment to sit, moment to rhyme, moment to spit. Hold this time, hold a twist. I is your I. When you fight, I fight. You die, I die. I is your I. When you live to live, I live to live. Rise, I is your I. When you fight, I fight. You die, I die. Thank you, party people. We love y'all. Stay strong.
Thank you so much, Spirit Child, for that beautiful intro and libations to the ancestors. Always so important to honor our ancestors. We wanted to start with the first question on background. So we're going to talk about the history of the Black Panthers and Palestinian liberation movements. the effects of holding captive, torturing, and murdering political prisoners on the movement, the challenges they have endured and continue to face in the fight to free them all, and highlighting the extreme situation of the Palestinian hostages who currently face execution by the end of June. Our first speaker will be Yafa Arman, who is a Palestinian activist and a member of the Red Ribbon Campaign coordination team. She's currently current advocacy focuses on campaigning against the application of the criminal death penalty against Palestinians and exposing the torture of Palestinian hostages. She's also the niece of Palestinian author Walid al-Hudali, who served a life sentence, released and was re-abducted by the occupation forces in January 2026. In addition, spent 13 years working with the UN in the field of refugee protection. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ridima, and thank you, everyone. It is a pleasure to participate in this event with you today. Salam, everyone. So when we speak about the Palestinian liberation movement, I think we need to highlight that it did not begin recently. It began even at the time of the British colonization period in 1917. And speaking about history, I would like to mention that yesterday was the 78th commemoration of the Nakba, the term that translates to catastrophe in Arabic language, and the injury of humanity in humankind language. The Nakba was never ended, and the occupation of the what's so-called Israel killed in the last 2.5 years triple the number of Palestinians in the 10 years past October 7th in their torture dungeons. We will be mentioning Nakba later on in depth, so I will be speaking about the effect of imprisonment on Palestinian movement and its continuous impact. So, and here I would like to mention that the death penalty law wasn't new. It was inherited from British colonial rule and incorporated into Israel's emergency laws. Since the current occupation operates without a constitution, all laws against Palestinians, whether prisoners or not in the occupied territories, stem from these unjust emergency regulations. So historically, hundreds of Palestinians faced execution on the spot for merely possessing sharp objects during the British rule, with no legal accountability for their killers, just like now. But after 1967, Israel temporarily reduced death sentence to life imprisonment, not of course out of kindness, but due to two factors. The first one is security concerns that prisoners would resist if they had no hope. And international. The second one is international, to maintain their democratic image by aligning with modern European standards. They were promoting themselves that they're the only democratic state in the region. However, after October 7th, they revealed their true aggressive face and they disclosed their saddest and fascist nature as a way to get revenge from Palestinians. The way they torture Palestinians now is historically unprecedented, assuming that a Palestinian resisted against the crimes that the occupation forces are doing now, and another only suspect of being patriot and was held under administrative detention, like the 3,500 Palestinians under administrative detention, they both get tortured the same way, because the occupation is using collective punishment on all Palestinians, and even children are being tortured the same way as the adults, as they torture also the freedom fighters. This is their sadistic behavior. Plus, the current ministers who are now ruling the government, the Israeli governments, are products of settler colonial projects in the West Bank. So referencing even hateful Torah quotes like, kill the Canaanite and steal their donkey to justify killing of Palestinians and stealing their lands, erasing our identity to dehumanize us under false and criminal religious cover. So the problem is that the people and the society are not civilians anymore. They are all soldiers on standby. And the hate spread between the society in the way that it will even harm them harm them along with Palestinians. They are a danger to themselves, to Palestinians, and to the world. And the world must urgently work to restore humanity, or at least to stop the normalization of inhumanity. Like, look at the reaction toward the death penalty law among the society, and how they celebrated it with their society, which is considered as an indication of their rooted hate inside them and the loss of humanity. These practices, unfortunately, have led to having 9,600 Palestinians inside occupation dungeons as of now, including 86 women and 350 children, with 3,000, as I mentioned, 3,532 Palestinians under the what's so-called administrative detention. And since October 7, 89 Palestinians have fallen martyred due to severe torture, starvation, sexual abuse, and medical neglect, which, if you compare it to the number of people killed inside prisons in the 10 years before this date, which was only 30 Palestinians fall martyred inside prisons, which is considered as systematic escalation and even a declaration of collective punishment and behind war genocide. And of course, this does not include the forced disappearances, only the ones known to be present in prisons, which is estimated to be the same number as the current known one inside prisons. Thank you so much, and over to you, Ridima.
Thank you so much, Yafa. Such important information to share and to be aware of, that, you know, there's so much history that's gone into what's been going on, what's led to what's been going on. And next up we have Jaruba Al-Mujahid bin Wahad, who is 82. He was born in the Bronx, New York, as Richard O. Moore on June 30th, 1944. He is a revolutionary political activist and veteran member of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, who, after being acquitted in the New York Panther 21 conspiracy case, served over 19 years as a U.S. government-captured political prisoner of war, where he both was a prison organizer and a convert into the religion of Islam. Now primarily based in Ghana, Brother Jaruba is the author of numerous essays, including chapters in books such as Look for Me in the Whirlwinds, All Power to the People, the film Passing It On, and is soon released his long-awaited biography. And he currently hosts a political podcast on Black Power Media entitled Beggars on Horseback. Jaruba, welcome. There you are. Welcome.
Thank you, comrade. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I fully appreciate the opportunity to be on this webinar in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle, and particularly in an effort to organize awareness and people to rally to the support of Palestinian captives, prisoners of war, and political prisoners. We know that the events that are occurring in Western Asia as we speak are spiraling out of the control of the European settler state of Israel, the Zionist entity of Israel, and the people's resistance in Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the people's resistance in Iraq, and of course, the resilience of the Iranian people in the face of naked imperialist aggression by the United States and its cronies and surrogates in Al-Mujahid Khalaq and these various groupings are coming to a screeching demise. Events are spiraling out of control. The movement of resistance is taking the initiative on all fronts. And the U.S. is resorting to conspiracy theories at home in order to round up dissidents and those who stand opposed to the genocidal and expansionist activities of the Zionist state. So I think that this webinar is very important for activists. Most of us on here are activists. And so I think we need to strengthen our ability to communicate to the masses of our particular constituents the facts on the ground and what's happening on the ground. I'm in West Africa here, in the sub-region of West Africa. I'm in Ghana. Ghana shares a multi-kilometer, I believe it's a 200-kilometer border with Burkina Faso and Sahel Confederation, Sahel states, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Right now, both the U.S. and its cronies and the French are trying to encircle and destroy the AES. I think we have to understand that some of the forces that are involved in this destruction are also Israeli intelligence, Israeli embassies over here are deeply involved in trying to destabilize and undermine support of the Palestinian people in their cause. They're trying to neutralize our support for the Cuban people and their stand against U.S. sanctions and threatening U.S. imperial invasion. So every one of the forces that are at work are trying to destroy the Palestinians and trying to negate and sidetrack their right to self-determination are here working in the sub-region. I think many of our comrades know that just recently, right on the internet right now, the U.S. government is bragging about having killed a so-called Islamic terrorist leader in Nigeria somewhere in conjunction with the Nigerian military. We are faced with increasing tendencies to collaborate with AFRICOM, with the U.S., with the French forces. Right here, Ukraine is heavily involved in some of this behind the scenes chicanery that's going on in the region right now. And so we have to be very careful about how we go about fashioning a support network for our political prisoners here in the U.S. and to call for the elimination of the Zionist entity that claims to have legitimacy in the United Nations as it goes about violating the human rights and the national rights of Palestinian people and beyond, in Lebanon and beyond. So I think we should begin to bring our petition, our organizational networks to the United Nations right now. Africa, over 1.7 billion people are unrepresented in the United Nations Security Council. There's a resolution in the United Nations General Assembly calling for the designation of the North Atlantic slave trade as a crime against humanity. And that reparations appeal is going to be discussed and worked over next month, between the 15th and the 17th of next month, I believe. There will be representatives from the AU, from all over, who will be going over pushing this campaign. But I assure you, and everyone here, that's very important that grassroots organizations weigh in on these types of conferences, that we call out the collaborationists, the petty bourgeoisie collaborationists, political elite that are backing these aggressions in Africa, whether it's the UAE in Sudan and the Saudi government in Sudan and in East Africa. We know right now that we are in a delicate period. And so activists have to be very aware that in their respective metropoles, that the intelligence agencies are connected, that they have identified many of us as activists, and they're figuring out a way to try to blunt our abilities to work and coordinate with each other and bring these issues before the ICJ, the ICC, and the United Nations. So I think that we need to focus right now our energies on putting together the type of unified activities that could begin to impact these agencies and put out a correct analysis and a mass line that people can understand. The U.S. has just manufactured some conspiracy charges against some folks in the United States that I was just reading about, and it reads like a repeat of the 1980s and the setup under the type of COINTELPRO operations that set people up and then brought them to court, like in the case that I was involved in, the New York Panther 21 case. It's a totally fabricated case brought by the Bureau of Special Intelligence, the FBI, a special anti-terrorist task force that emerged in the late 70s and early 80s. Solidarity with the Palestinian people, as my comrades that will follow me will illustrate. Some of these comrades are working actively right now on the cases of Kamau Sadiki and our other political prisoners that we have here. And so they will talk more about the solidarity. But I used to work in the Solidarity Committee in New York back in the late 1960s, early 70s for the Black Panther Party. I was field secretary of the Black Panther Party at that time, and we had an active relationship in the United Nations with the Palestinian groups that were able to participate in that forum. On the side of the Black Panther Party, we had a working relationship with the PFLP and Comrade George Bash back then. And it's the same, I can say too, for our relationship in the Congo, even after the assassination.
Thank you so much for introducing this wonderful figure introduction to all of this. We'll get back to you with some other questions. I just wanted to get to the next question and invite another guest. Thank you again, Jeruba. For our next question, we're going to talk about the comparative analysis of the structural systems of oppression in the U.S. and Palestine, from the prison industrial complex, school to prison pipeline, and land housing dispossession in the U.S. to the apartheid and ethnic cleansing going on in Palestine, how these systems have led to the rise of political prisoners, displacement, and the cycles of resistance. We have our speaker for Palestine, Sireen Sawalha, who was born in a small village of Kufir Rai in Jenin, Palestine. She comes from a family deeply connected to the region's rich history. She moved to the U.S. in 1990 and completed her bachelor's and master's at Rider University. Was recognized by Cornell University for outstanding contributions to education. She serves as a social studies teacher in New Jersey. And beyond academia, she is a passionate chef and compelling storyteller, sharing her family's experiences under occupation. Sireen raises awareness about Palestinian culture and actively contributes to the struggles for Palestinian freedom. My Brother, My Land is the story of her family.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Hello? Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me first, Redima. And she introduced me. I'm Palestinian from Jenin, a small village called Kufur Rai. And growing up, first Intifada, or the children of the stone, we were throwing rock in the Israeli soldiers. I opened my eyes to the occupation in 1967. And to remember yesterday, the 78 years, I remember my grandfather who ended up refugee from Nazareth, and remembering my father as a young kid moving to Jenin and never seen his home in Nazareth, or his two older brother, Abdullah and Abdul Karim, which is I always heard about their existence from stories from my father and my grandmother. I'm speaking today regarding what it means, the Black Panther to me. If you look at my book, My Brother, My Land, Story from Palestine, I talked about my brother Iyad. He was Fahd al-Aswad in chapter 15, page 89. I talk about Fahd al-Aswad, which is Black Panther, and talks about his resistance and struggle starting as 14 years old. As you see, I'm having a picture of Iyad in mid, and always I wear it close to my heart. As a Palestinian living under the occupation and working so hard for resistance and liberating Palestine, Iyad started joining the Black Panther at a young age, ended up being arrested in 1991 and spent 8 years in prison until he was sentenced to 250 years. And some of you will be surprised about the long sentence for a young kid who did not turn 18 yet. This is what the occupation does. The occupation basically sentenced Palestinians to between 100 and 500 years in prison, and basically giving them no hopes to leave those walls. In my book, I describe the years Iyad spent in prison. The sad thing is, Yafa spoke about this before, is how many Palestinians have been sentenced to death penalty and being killed in prison before and now. Even the one who released from prison ended up being killed and hunted by the Israeli soldiers. Iyad was released in an exchange in 1999 in September, but Iyad did not enjoy his freedom. Within a few months, Iyad was basically hunted by the Israeli soldiers, trying to assassinate him many times. Ended up, he was killed. The house was bombed, and he was assassinated in November 9th, 2002. That I'm his sister, who moved to the US since 1990. I did not even get the chance to see him outside prison. When you read the book, you're going to see me back and forth talking about him and our visitation for him in prison. But here I want to say that the Palestinian mother, the Palestinian father, the Palestinian sisters and brother has been struggling with their loss too. Either the visiting and the process to visit prisoners and seeing them being tortured, and seeing what happening now, missing and raped and beaten prisoners, starving prisoner, which is, we see so many stories coming out now. I'm sure those stories exist when Iyad was in prison, but in the 90s, a lot of prisoners, when their parents visit them, they wanted those 20 minutes basically to catch up in family stories and life, instead of sharing those miserable time. What I was going to talk about more, even if I have chance, is it's not just killing Palestinian, is taking their body and holding their body hostages for months and years, preventing their own mothers from burying them. There's so many stories of 14 and 15 years young children from Jerusalem. One of them is actually Nasim Abu Rumi or Hassan Manasri, who were killed as young kids, and they were their body was held frozen in Israel and refused to give them to their parents. I remember when Iyad was killed, I really called my mom and want to make is Iyad one piece, because when they attacked his house at 2:30 in the morning and throwing bombs and assassinated him and killing him, I was worried as a sister that they will take the body and we will not be able to bury him. And then my mom was so happy when I called her after the burial that her son was buried. And I said, why you buried him so fast? I wanted to call, I want to say goodbye. And she said, we were afraid the Israeli soldiers will come and take his body, and preventing us from burying him and knowing where he is and visiting his grave. And then I asked my mom, was he full? Because we talk about Ashla. Palestinians now cannot even bury their dead, their pieces. In Gaza, we see moms in Jenin refugee camp. Over 2,000 people were killed. Either body are taken or body are pieces. We're seeing parents holding garbage bags, holding parts and pieces of their loved one and children to be buried. And I was so worried that Iyad was buried and missing pieces. And that's the simple things parents and sisters like me are worried about with the cruel of this occupation. So even Iyad was sentenced to 150 years in prison, which is later you're going to see Mahmoud Al-Arda. He doesn't know I'm here. I'm sure he's going to speak about that time period. We just met in Egypt and he shared with me a couple of things. And we see prisoners who've been struggling and starving after October 7. And we're seeing so much of American media turning the eyes about the injustice and the humane and the genocide of children and parents in Gaza Strip. Over 30,000 children were killed and their body were turned to pieces. So in my book, I talk about my experience. I talk about 1948 of my dad, but then I talk about 1967, where my mom was in Amman, Jordan. And when she heard that we lost in 1967 war, she walked back. I described I was 1 year old in her arm, walking back in the middle of the night because she was fearing losing her home and land. And I never ever heard my mom regretting walking back until the day Iyad was assassinated and my house was bombed and we lost everything. And now when I visit my mom, she has this corner of memories of things came out of the house after it was bombed. Little artifacts, pictures of Iyad, the t-shirt Iyad was wearing before he was killed, the key for my old house. So we live in memories, but I don't want to be living in memories. I want to encourage people to stand up and speak about the genocide, about the injustice the Palestinians are facing either in West Bank or in Gaza. The settlers, the past couple of days, over 7 Palestinians were killed by settlers who's been roaming our land, uprooting our trees and killing us every time we try to defend our right to be there. So I hope I'm not going over, but there is some pictures I would like to share, which is the last time I saw Iyad. He was 14 years old, young boy, so excited, joined the Black Panther and in Jenin and joining the resistance. And then some pictures, which is I have of my house after it was bombed and what left for my mom to remember from that day. But all in all, there is daily settlers attacks to Palestinian homes, there is settlers attacks to uproot our trees, there is settlers attacks to young children in school, there is attacks by the Israeli military attacks to small villages and towns in the West Bank. Plus, people think there is a ceasefire in Gaza, which is, it's not true. There is no ceasefire in Gaza. If you open the news, you will hear it in daily basis, how many homes and family has been lost since the cold ceasefire. I don't want to run the time. I know
No,
it's
so much. Are we showing the photos, Kalanji? I think that's what I was waiting to see if we're going to able to
Yeah.
show the photos on the screen. Okay, well, in the meantime, I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to show the photos, but thank you so much for sharing your story and about your brother.
Thank you for inviting me, and I hope I did not go over the time. I know you have a lot of guests you need to speak, and I'm looking forward to hear from everyone.
Definitely. I think you covered both questions. We'll have Jaleel who's speak next. Let me just introduce Jaleel really quickly. 1 second. Okay, Jaleel Abdul Muntakim, who's 74, was born in Oakland, California as Anthony Bottom on October 18, 1951. He is a political activist and veteran member of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, who served 49 years as U.S. government captured political prisoner of war, where he both was a prison organizer and a convert into the religion of Islam. He is the author of We Are Our Own Liberators, Escaping the Prism, Fade to Black, and his essays have been published in several books, magazines, and newspapers. Jaleel currently serves as the co-chairperson of the National Jericho Amnesty Movement for Political Prisoners, senior advisor to Prison Lives Matter Coalition, and hosts a podcast entitled We Are Our Own Liberators. Welcome, Jaleel Montakim. Please join us. I'm very looking forward to sharing your thoughts. I know from your experiences as well. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, peace, prosperity, jumbo, hareen, hafa adea, shalom, guten tag, alafia, paz, haping, hawaii, whatever your native language, I wish you peace and solidarity. I'd like to make a correction that was stated in the intro. I am no longer the co-chairman of the National Jericho Movement. I was the co-founder of the National Jericho Movement, along with Baba Herman Ferguson and my dear sister, Safia Bukhari. The organization has been in existence nearly 30 years now, founded in 1998. What's important about that is the fact that we have, in fact, political prisoners in the United States. And why do we have political prisoners? Because we have a movement, or have had a movement of resistance going on for over 400, for indigenous people in Turtle Island, rich and nameless country, over 500 years. All right. And that includes having close relationships with our Palestinian brothers and sisters. As many of you know, some of our members of the Black Panther Party back in the day, the Black Liberation Army, trained with the Palestinian movement. At that time was the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. And so we have had a serious, long-running relationships with our comrades in Palestine, and particularly in regards to our fight against a common enemy, a common threat to all of us, not only to us here in Turtle Island or in Palestine or parts of Africa, but to the entire world. Right? It's important for us to understand that this illegal, aberrant idea of white supremacy and Zionism, which is also a white colonial construct, is a threat to all people around the world, especially people of color. Right? If you look in any place on the planet where Black, brown, and indigenous people are, right, you'll find the majority of them in whether it's New Zealand, Australia, Germany, France, Brazil, Africa, Latin America, Caribbeans, are downtrodden around the world. You go look. All right, refute me if I'm wrong. Where in the world do you find that the Black people, African people of African descent, or people of color are prospering to the highest potential without the threat of white supremacy, without the threat of being held down by the course of their existence, by this aberrant, and I say aberrant idea that some people are superior than other people on the planet, which is in my mind, in my thinking, is absolutely insane. Right? In fact, their own books state that. Right? The Bible of the psychology and psychiatry, the DSM-V book, right, informs that people with superior, who believe themselves to have God conscious or superiority complex, suffer from mental disorder. So you extrapolate that to the idea of white supremacy, and I tell you straight up, white people, you're out of your minds if you think that you're superior to any other people on the planet. And that's what we're engaged in. We're engaged with people who are insane. They believe in slavery. They believe in genocides. They believe in mass murder. because of this aberrant idea that they're beholden to no other than themselves, right? Well, power is might, and might is power for them, right? And if we don't have that kind of might, then you're suffering the conditions of white supremacy and capitalist exploitation, right? We also understand that Turtle Island is an empire, that this country, in fact, is an empire. And we know that empires are not dismantled by outside forces. Yes, they may be weakened by outside forces, but history informs us that empires are destroyed when the people inside the empire says no more. We're done. All right. And so the world is waiting on us. What we find going on in Gaza, or they're establishing, finding the platforms and the means and method which they can accomplish the same thing here. And you can't tell me they don't do that. If you have not read anything about the summer of 1919, 1920, where they was rampaging, called Red Summer, right? We know that they destroyed communities. We know what happened with MOVE. We know they bombed Black Panther Party offices. This is what they do. And right now they have white boys, who call themselves the Proud Boys, who have now been deputized and militarized, have a budget almost as great than the military. These are white supremacists, the so-called ICE. These are the Proud Boys, right? The white supremacists, it was one state that the South will rise again. Well, they have. Over 150 years. Yes, now they have. And these people believe in slavery, right? But keep this also in mind in terms of this country. Slavery was never abolished. This is a slave nation. On the same time, on the same date that they ended chattel slavery, on the same paper with the same ink, they started penal slavery. So when was slavery ended? 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution says slavery and involuntary servitude, except for those who have been duly convicted of a crime. And now we have mass incarceration. They're putting people back into slavery. They're building concentration camps across this country. For who? Right? They're training law enforcement in urban warfare. Against who? Let's understand something. This is serious. They now have control of the military, the National Guard, ICE. This is a fascist state, right? Not only is it fascist, but it's racist. Okay. And so when we look at what's going on in Palestine, when we look at what's going on in parts of Africa, or we look at what's going on in other parts of the world, like Iran, right? With these lies. And we know that they lied to us. We know what they did in Iraq. Killed over 1 million people in 6 months. Wiped them off the planet. 1 million people off a lie. And how we know it's a lie? Because Colin Powell went to the United Nations and told them, I was duped. I was lied. They never had weapons of mass destruction. They lied to us. So how can you believe what's going on in Iran? Like these are petroleum wars. Like these are the national corporations are engaging in pilfering the planet as they have been doing imperialism. Okay. So we have to understand what we are up against here in the United States. And that's the reason why we have what we call the national convergence, right? The national mobilization against genocides. As the United States has been found guilty of genocides against Black, brown, indigenous people on October 21st to October 25th, 2021, an international tribunal esteemed body. Go to spiritofmandela.org and learn about this. Or go to YouTube and type in International Tribunal 2021. We still charge genocides. And learn about what's going on in this country. We are under threat. Just as they are in Palestine. Just as they are in other parts of the world. Okay, so I just want to share that with you, all right? And put us on point of what's going on in this country and how we need to get organized, all right? July 24, 2026, we will be in Atlanta, Georgia, National Convergence. Right, we're urging everybody who's watching this and seeing this to contribute. Go to spiritofmandela.org and get on board. With that, I say peace. Assalamu alaikum.
I wanted to get into the importance of information as well, like how the escalation and evolution of tactics since the Nakba till now, and how information about the reality of what's going on in both of these prisons. So the lack of information due to threats and the fact that we don't know the full extent of the abuse but going on in both situations. We're hearing things from, prisoners in Palestine, but Shireen, if you want to come back on and talk about that as well, and share some thoughts about that.
Yeah, you're right. Not every prisoner speak about their experience. From my experience, I have two brothers and a sister who ended up in an Israeli prison. One of my brother, who was really young, spent 3.5 years not even sentenced. Every 6 months, they extended his sentence. And until you are sentenced, you cannot even have visitors from your family and barely a few minutes for your lawyer. So speaking with them, I felt as soon as they were released, they fearing of sharing any information, fearing from the occupation, fearing from being arrested again. But I noticed after October 7 and the past couple of years, seeing the prisoners coming out and sharing their stories, seeing us watching the prisoner in their boxer laying up in the wall in one of the prison, being raped by dogs and all of that, I felt last visit that a lot of them suddenly wants to share, want to talk about it. In one event, I was driving with my sister and we seeing the Israeli soldiers in the middle of all the road in Tulkarem, and they were with their bulldozer unpaving every street, dust all around us. And then suddenly, out of fear, she started sharing with me how the days and the nights and what they ate in prison while she was in prison in 2005. So, but now I feel like we need to tell more story. We need to record our story. Like when I decided after Iyad was killed, and suddenly the last time he saw me, he said, "Matin Sini, don't forget me." And I felt like I have a burden. I need to tell my brother's story. I need to share his own experience in prison and out of prison, and the interrogation process he went through, and how is a young kid for throwing rocks and interrogating traitors is getting sentenced of 250 years in prison. So I wanted to know more about their life in prison. And I want to say my brother entered prison, Iyad, not finishing high school. He ended up reading books. When I visited him one time in 1999, he spoke about the Cuban Revolution, the Algerian Revolution. He was involved in a lot of politics. He was talking about the Black Panther, Malcolm X. And I see my brother has a big library in prison while he's spending a lot of time daily, 2 hours reading books and understanding. Even he became very religious. He never prayed before. He was reading the Quran. He's asking me for the translation of the Quran from Egypt. And he's a new person. He's getting his education in prison. But after October 7, which is I heard from a lot of people when I went last year, those are not even allowed. Even having a book in prison is not allowed by the Israeli. Having meals, I heard from them, like before they have the stores, they used to buy food. The parents used to send them supplies once a month, send them money to buy from the store in prison. Now after October 7, they're starving them. They're feeding them as small as like the size of a meal for a cat. They've been tortured. I seen Ali Samoudi from Jenin, who was 120 within 6 months. 120 kilo. When he was released last week was 60 kilo. He talks about how barely they have food or drinks. So after October 7, they've been beating. A lot of death has been happening in prison. So we're talking about death sentence. They already putting them to death sentence without trial in prison. They misfed, mistreated. Everyone we see out of prison are either lost weight or really mentally unstable. Just seeing them and watching them walking out of that car as soon as they released, you're seeing a corpse just coming back from a grave. This is how I felt watching them, listening to their testimony. My heart is breaking because I think my brother went through all that torture. My brother maybe was things happened to him, and he was ashamed to share this with his sister who's coming from the US, and all I need to see is him being strong and being tough, and how he's resisting, and how he's becoming a man in prison, how he's reaching to all the education and all the books. book, and how his dream when he come out, he's going to attend university. All of this is gone. We're seeing over 10,000 Palestinian young boys and girls are being tortured. They're stealing their dream from them. They're preventing them from going to school. They're bombing. They're targeting schools, refugee camps, and hospitals. I was reading a statistic today. Over 30,000 children in Gaza are in limbs, lost their limbs, are in crutches. Which is, you're talking about all generation. If you were not killed, you were in prison, and if you were not tortured in prison, you lost limb because of the continuous bombing and shelling by the Israeli to all the refugee, all the Palestinian people who are in Gaza. So my experience is talking about condition of prison in the 90s, comparing to the hell the prisoners are living in right now. And people don't talk about prison of dead bodies. Your body, you already died. Your parents wants to bury you. They want to visit your cemetery. They want to read the Fatiha in your grave, and they are not allowed. They're prevented from that. You know, when I go to Palestine every year, the first thing I do, I go visit Iyad grave. And the last thing I do before I leave Palestine is I go and visit Iyad grave. So imagine all these mothers and sisters like me who are not even allowed to do that, who they don't know the body part of their loved one, what happened to them, who they see cats and dogs in the street eating the body of their loved one. So the world are not seeing what's going on in Gaza and Palestine. Like literally, I don't know. I feel like I want to walk to everyone in the street and shake them and says, wake up, wake up. Humanity is gone in Palestine. People have no mercy in us. They're seeing us and they're counting bodies. They're counting bodies. But those bodies are the children of somebody, the wife of somebody, the father of somebody, the brother and the sister of somebody. There is all families disappeared and vibrated in bombs. When I watch the news and I see people picking up pieces of their loved one, I say, thank God, my brother was in one piece. My brother was buried. My brother is in a grave I could visit. But then when my father came to visit me here in the US, and he was an American citizen and got sick and passed away here, I was preventing. I tried so hard to send his body back to Palestine so he can be buried next to my brother and my grandmother. I was rejected by the Israeli. As a Palestinian, I have no right to return where I was born and lived. So the prisoners, they out, but they still in prison within inside themselves from the torture they faced. I saw prisoners in Egypt. It's heartbreaking. Their family were prevented from coming from Palestine to Egypt to meet them. Thabit, mom died few weeks when I was in Egypt in February, few weeks after he was deported to Egypt, and she was not allowed from Jenin to go to Egypt to visit her son and hug him after he came out of prison, after years of spending in prison. So, and there is so many stories. Every time I go, people are grabbing me to share those stories, thinking that I'm going to come back to the US and I have a magic wand, and then I convince all these politicians, all this public opinion, stand with the Palestinians, stand with injustice. We have the right to that land. We lived and born there. I always say when I do a book talk, we live to tell, and this is my story. So in my book, I said, my name is Sirin Sawalha. If you search about my roots, I'm from Nazareth. Who's from Nazareth? Jesus and Mary. If you search my Sawalha family, maybe 70% of the family is Christians. So maybe I was Christians. I was from Jesus' time, and my branch of my family converted to Islam. So it's not just Muslim has been tortured in Palestine. The Christian has been tortured. The Christian community, the churches, they're preventing from celebrating Christmas. They're bombing the church in Gaza. They killed so many people and imprisoned so many. But people are turning an eye, and I hope shows like you and people like you guys and audience like your audience who's watching right now, like go out and speak and grab any politicians, any people who have an influence. We need to rise. The same thing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King rise, and we need to have an awakening and free the Palestinian. Same thing, we brought the civil rights movement and liberate our brother and sister in this country. So yes, there is a burden in everybody's shoulder in this world, in this country, who has to really speak in the behalf of Palestinian. And I'm speaking in behalf of Palestinian because my brother last visit is Matinsini. And I want all of you, don't forget the Palestinian people. Don't forget my story, which is like anybody can grab it. It talks about Palestine. It talks about the good and the good times for us as a family, but in the same time, it's going to make you cry so many times about what we went through as a family since 1948. So yes, the Nakba yesterday is so much for me. I lost my childhood. I lost my brother. My dad ended up dying and buried here in the US instead of back home. I lost even my right to go back. I'm fearing this summer to go back because I'm standing and protesting every day to speak about the injustice happening to the Palestinian people. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time.
Thank you so much. No, this is such deep emotions. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Jaleel, I just wanted to ask you to come back and share your experiences as well, because you've been through so much, and people don't know a lot of what's gone on and what you guys have gone through in these prisons. So if you don't mind sharing from your experiences, I'd be honored.
Shukran, thank you. Dear Sister Sareen, your story is heart-wrenching. We understand thoroughly what you're suffering, because we also suffer the same here. Right? As I made mention, this is a slave nation. Okay, and many of us have suffered those conditions inside prison. I was captured at the age of 19. I was not released from prison until the age of 58. 49 something years, 49 plus years in prison. And in the course of those prisons, I continued to organize and continue to struggle, as did your beloved. Right? I started the first national newspaper called Armed and Spirit while in San Quentin prison. I started the first petition to the United Nations that was recorded, talking about prison conditions and the existence of political prisoners in the United States. That was recorded. And at the same time, I suffered conditions of severe solitary confinement, years in solitary confinement. At one time, in fact, I was in San Francisco County Jail fighting the case called the San Francisco 8 case. You can go on YouTube and find the San Francisco 8 case, the legacy of torture, where they tortured my comrades, actually tortured them. We have film, we have information on that. We have documented, it's documented. Yes, they torture people in the prison system. Okay. And I had to sleep on the floor in a place that they called the dungeon. In the law books, the area where they held me at inside the prison, San Francisco County Jail, is called the dungeon. No sunlight, no fresh air. The only contact I had was the 5 other individuals who was in this area, 5 cells and a shower. No windows. And at one point in time, it was very difficult for me. I had to sleep on the floor in order to get some fresh air. Yeah. And then you begin to develop a means from which you transform within yourself and find that inner spirit, that inner fire. I get up and start doing the push-ups, start doing jumping jacks, right? In order to stay healthy, stay alive, to feel myself being alive inside this cell. It's confining, right? Where you know it's claustrophobic, right? But you have to go deep inside yourself to survive. But with the intent to continue to struggle, continue to fight back. Yes, it's trauma. But we are people that suffer from trauma in this country. Right? This is a nation of trauma. Okay. And so as I stated, the penal system in Turtle Island in the United States is in fact a slave system. Okay, and this is how they treat our people. Right. They demand that you work for pennies on a dollar, while the corporate interests make billions and millions of dollars off your labor. That's a prison system, right? And we have comrades in prison who are still fighting for it, like Mumia Abu Jamal, like Kamau Sadiki and Jojo Bowens, and many others. They have to fight for their release, because they're suffering. Like Kamau Sadiki and Kwame Shakur in Indiana, brother organized inside prison. Reminds me in many ways of myself inside prison. Continue to try to resist, right? And in so doing, maintain your sanity. That's important. So we have to support our political prisoners. If you fail to support your political prisoners, you're failing your own movement. Why? Because they represent the best of us. They're the ones who will put their life and liberty on the line for our people, out of love of our struggle, love of our people. How are you going to deny that? How are you going to deny them? That's like denying yourself your own freedom. That's what they're fighting for. To fight for the political prisoners, to fight for your own freedom. Straight up like that. You have an obligation. So we see what's going on. At one time I was communicating with Bawa Maguti in Palestine, right? And I understand what he's suffering, because we suffer the same here, right? Separate, divorce from your family, divorce from your community, no communications or limited communications, right? But God, keep us in mind, we're under the same, we're fighting against the same opposition, the same mentality, the same thought process, that they are valued more than we are, that they are superior and we are inferior. Therefore, they determine by their might that they can do what they will. Okay. And that's important for us to understand that. That's why we have to resist. Okay. So yes, the prison system in the United States is in fact a slave system. We have comrades across the country who need our support, right? In building support for political prisoners, you're building support for your own movement. You're sustaining and strengthening your capacity to engage without fear, right? Comrade George has once stated, or supporters have stated that at some point in time, being a liberal leads to cowardice. Okay, we cannot be cowards. All right, so we have to combat neoliberalism, right, and opportunism and sectarianism in our movement, right? And we have to build the bridges of our struggles, not only nationally but internationally. All right, so I just gave you just a one of my experience inside a prison system, right? And we continue to engage and continue to struggle. And with that, I yield. I mean,
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such an honor to hear your experiences, and thank you for sharing them. I just wanted to take, we'll have some poetry and some music. Up next, we have poet Farid Battar, who is a published Palestinian poet and artist performer from Palestine. He has published works in Treasury of Arabic Love, published by Hippocrene Books, Footprints in the Mist, A Blade of Grass, Screaming Olives, and Out of Gaza, published by Smokestack Books. And to quote Anna Fiera, who's a poet and radio host, Farid Battar is an ardent advocate for the rights of Palestinians. He makes the struggle felt and understood to the people here in the United States through music, poetry, art, and activism. Farid brings us into full contact with the painful situation in Palestine while conveying a vivid sense of longing for the beauty of his homeland. Welcome, Farid. Thank you. Such an honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This is a very interesting talk. I'm a Palestinian, a product of the wars. My family is being killed in the wars, and I was in the first Intifada. So I'm going to read you in for the Nakba, which was yesterday. Nakba, Sakba. I've told this story so many versions that sometimes I'll forget how it all started an eternity away. Mother narrated in the middle. I read the start. Father refrained from talking. I keep dwelling on the past while I should build the future. The problem is, every time I build a nest, Zion keeps destroying it. It all started a simple way, an innocent child growing in a sleepy town, Jericho. I still remember the mint tea. I still smell the rain evaporating. 1948, 1967, 1982, 1988, and Gaza, and on and on. Nakba. And this is Flying Bird, Lemon Tree, Olive Tree, Fig Tree. I'm a shapeshifter in a leap of faith, upside down, life, horizon new, constricted, conflicted, but committed. I am the flying bird of Palestine. I am Al Anbar, Kandahar, blue water surging, troop buildup, and trees blowing. And this one is Screaming Olives. The Israelis have not only killed Palestinians, but they've also took out the trees. The olive tree is our national symbol. Screaming olives, beyond the evergreen, the settler is very mean. The olive tree glimpsed the oblivious coming, carrying a tank of petrol and an M16 hanging from his shoulder. The branches started waving hurriedly, then the olives joined in, screaming like a chorus in a symphony. Call our owners, call our owners. But no one comes. Wonder why? Is it because the soldiers are busy sniping the farmers in the harvest? The tree started yelling at the man, get out of my existence. Every time you come, I know I'm gone. Stop killing my babies. Stop suffocating my insides. Stop your savageness. Emmett Till, lynched in 1955, way down near Selma, Alabama. Ali on the Grill, settler taunted, burned in Juma, West Bank, Palestine, 2015. Mississippi, still. I just hope we unite. I hope the struggle continues. And long live the Black Panthers, and long live Palestine. And I hope peace comes on equal basis. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Rita. It's always such an honor to hear you speak, and it's always so heartfelt. I think we will go to Yafa, who will be hosting our second section, who I already introduced, so we can welcome Yafa.
Thank you, Regina. I hope our guests already arrived. We will be speaking about the art of resistance inside Israeli dungeons and US prisons in response to state oppression, how political prisoners transform spaces of confinement into places of survival, creativity, and collective strength through writing, political education, art, cultural expression to cultivate resilience, preserve their identity, and transform imprisonment into steadfast resistance against these systems of oppression. How the system tries to break their spirits inside the prisons, and the importance of maintaining public attention and pressure through continued advocacy and supporting the resistance. And honestly speaking, this topic is very close to my heart because it It's exactly the life experience that my uncle put into words, Walid al-Hodari, in his novels. And by the way, Walid al-Hodari was the teacher of, I think, al-Marhum Iyad, the brother of Sirin, and they know each other. And I just realized this, and such a great coincidence. So yes, he put these struggles and experience into words in his novels that I grew up to hear from him on the heroic art inside prisons and the life and life in general and determination of prisoners. Also, their achievements of demanding better living conditions with basic rights and proper prisoner movement representation. Of course, that was before October 7th through hunger strikes. One of the very special arts of resistance that I heard is smuggling sperm outside the prison and having a child holding the name of the life sentenced prisoner who is known in Palestine as the ambassador of freedom. The child that is born out of these smuggled sperms is called the ambassador of freedom. This does not only give hope and joy to prisoners, it's a continuation of resistance and determination to the liberation life. The first ambassador of freedom, of course, was Muhannad al-Zaban. He's the son of Ammar al-Zaban. And now we have 111 ambassadors of freedom in Palestine. So now I will introduce you to one of the icons of resilience and resistance in the Palestinian society to speak about his 32 years of resistance inside prison, Mahmoud al-Arda. Mahmoud al-Arda, of course, is a free Palestinian hostage. He is known in Palestine as the hero of the Freedom Tunnel for his prison break, where he was among 6 prisoners who escaped from the Al-Quwa prison using a spoon to dig a 35 meters tunnel under the prison for 10 months. The Jalboa prison, of course, was known as the most secured prison in Israel before being retaken as a hostage. Prior to the escape, he was serving a life sentence under the criminal Israeli fascist authorities. He spent 32 years in total and was freed in defiance of the occupation in an exchange deal on October 14, 2025, and deported to Egypt, where he has remained until today away from his family. If you excuse me, I will explain in less than a minute in Arabic the topic of discussion for our speaker, Mahmoud, and directly hand over to him. And so أهلا وسهلا فيك أخي محمود. إحنا رح نتكلم إن شاء الله عن فن المقاومة داخل الزنازين الإسرائيلية والسجون الأمريكية في مواجهة قمع الدولة. كيف بيحول السجناء السياسيون أماكن الاحتجاز لمساحات للبقاء، مساحات للإبداع وللقوة الجماعية من خلال الكتابة، التثقيف السياسي، الفن، التعبير الثقافي، وزي ما حضرتك عملت بالهروب من السجن حتى. وأنا حكيت لهم شوي عن النطق المهربة وسفير الحرية مهند الزبن، فبدنا أنت تحكي لنا شوي كيف بيحاول النظام كسر معنوياتكم داخل السجون وأهمية الحفاظ على اهتمام الرأي العام والضغط المستمر من خلال مواصلة المناصرة. So thank you. تفضل أخي محمود.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أول شيء بوجه التحية.
The first thing we have to say is the situation, as you know, that Sireen Sabalha is very honored to meet you. And that Sireen had a big contribution to explain the testimonies of our prisoners. And so they're related to you. Yafa is his brother, Sawaha's brother, who was in prison as well. So it's good to know that you are family. The conversation that is prohibited to speak of from the prisoners, it is the discussion that is very long. And I'm always trying to choose the right words to express the pain and torture that we've lived through in the prison. The prisoners go through a lot internally that destructs everything inside of their soul, to destroy their power even to stand up for others. And with that, the prison itself makes it very difficult for you to even maintain your health, and that doesn't give you power to even speak and go on. The prisoner is, it's his testimony, what is going through is just as Mandela says, that their power is their testimony inside the prison. And what they do is they learn and they gain knowledge, and they understand the world outside with what they can to teach themselves. From another aspect, inside the prison's routine doesn't stop, doesn't allow you to stop from not learning. So historically, the imprisonment confines us even for resisting occupation. So the only thing we can do is that learn, and that is the weapon of the prisoner inside the prisons, is just education and knowledge and understand the world outside. So with that, the prisoners go through what they have to do to keep themselves educated about the world outside. So after 7th October, the first step was to, before anything, to remove libraries and remove any type of material for prisoners to learn and use for their knowledge. So there are so many difficulties the prisoners endure inside the prison. And the first thing, you want to try to live another life, but you can't. And everything, all the steps that they even put you through inhibit you from doing that. And sometimes the routine inside the prisons is specifically for the people after October 7th from the occupation. They use the opportunity to suppress you, and you cannot speak your testimony. So they use anything against you so you don't speak up. So the hostages and the differences between them, all their testimonies are the same, of the same pain they go through.
شكرا جزيلا أخي محمود على هاي المداخلة. Thank you so much محمود for this contribution. أنا حابة أدعو سيرين معنا، لأنه سيرين تعرف حضرتك وفي عندها مداخلة بسيطة لحضرتك. تفضلي سيرين.
سلامات محمود، سلامات، كيفك حبيبي؟ كيف صحتك؟ أنا اليوم الصبح تركت لك مسج صباح الخير، بس أنت قلت لي آخر شيء بالمسج ما تنسينا. شايف؟ إحنا ما بننساكم.
Don't forget us.
كل مسج محمود بيترك لي اياه بقول لي مسيرين ما تنسينا، فاحنا ما بننساكم. فما حبيت اقول لك اني راح اشوفك اليوم، قلت له عمل لك اياها مفاجاه.
تسلمي.
محمود قضى سنين مع اياد نفس السجن. محمود spent many years with Iyad, almost 9 years in prison, and he was with Black Panther with him and resistant. And Mahmoud was released from prison lately, but sadly deported to Egypt. So we met in Egypt in July. And when he saw me from far, he says, "You're Iyad. You look like Iyad. The same smile, the same curly hair, same green eyes." So Mahmoud, بتشرف إنك تكون أخوي الثاني. طيب. وإحنا ما بننساكم. We're not gonna forget either Iyad or Mahmoud or any Palestinian prisoner. And Mahmoud, you're my brother too. ما راح ننساكم. شكرا كثير انكم خليتوني اسلم عليه. ان شاء الله بنضلنا على اتصال. شكرا كثير على البرنامج الحلو، يعطيكم العافيه. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you everyone. And he is an example of a Palestinian resistance and a hero. And he will be a great person to always listen to and understand what's going on in the life in prison. I spent days with him in Egypt to 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and I felt I'm running out of time. So I hope I will see him again this summer. سلامات محمود، شكرا كثير على الفرصة. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. محمود بدي أطلب منك تضلك معنا شوي لحد ما نستضيف شخص آخر من مجموعة Black Panthers، بعدين نرجع لك. شكرا كثير. Thank you so much, Mahmoud. So now we have James Tariq Haskins, our second guest for this section. He's 77 years old, was born in Norfolk, Virginia in December 21st in 1948, grew up in Brooklyn. And after a tour in the Vietnam War, he then returned to Brooklyn, joined the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party. Later, as trained U.S. Marine combat specialist, he then put those skills to work by joining the Black Liberation Army. Welcome, James. And I would like to ask you the same question as I asked Brother Mahmoud about the situation and the art of resistance inside prisons from political prisoners of the U.S. perspective. So tell us, please, about how the steadfastness, resilience of political prisoners is a tool not to be broken in front of the system, the oppression.
Peace, family. As it was said, I am Tariq. I am a Black Panther. I'm a former member of the Black Liberation Army. I spent 17 years in numerous American death camp prisons as a prisoner of war. I would like to say that the Black Panthers and the Palestinians are of the same political family, and our last name is the oppressed. And we have a common oppressor, and the oppressor's name is a capitalist colonizer. As I said, I spent 17 years in numerous American prisons. I was subjected to different kinds of tortures, and one of the tortures that come to mind is at one point I was placed in a housing unit by myself, and it was really a torture chamber. Each cell was designed to carry out a different kind of torture. At one point, I had to stay on the bed 24 hours a day because the water was running through my cell. At another point, they put me in a cold cell, practically naked. And then I was kept in an area by myself, as I said, and the guards would run by when I had my back turned, and they would tell me to commit suicide. Also, they cooked me a couple of times, and people don't know what cooking is. And fortunately, I survived the cooking, and they wanted me to say that call out for help. That's what they wanted. But I didn't call out for help because I did not want to be used to slow down the resistance, to slow down our response to oppression. So I didn't call out for help. But they cooked me, and the first time when they drugged me, and then they took me out of my cell and took me to another cell and chained me to the bed, and they cut off the vents for other cells. and I only had my vent on, and they raised the temperature to like 150 degrees. So when I woke up, I thought that they had came in and threw buckets of water on me, and then I realized that it was 150 degrees in the cell, and that the water had come from me. They was sweating me, they was cooking me, and that's where the water had come from. And then as I woke up, the guard came in the cell and said if I want to call my lawyer or call my family, but basically they wanted to know if I wanted to call out for help, and I said no because like I said, I don't want to slow down the response to the resistance response to the oppressor by calling out for help. I would have rather had died myself than to call out for help and slow down the revolution. And I know the revolution will make it better for all of us. So I didn't want to slow down that process. So as I say, the Palestinians and the Black people are one. When we see in America, when we see the Israelis bombing the Palestinians, reducing their areas to rubble, killing many people, and we see this on the TV on a regular, and what has happened is the billionaire colonizers have decided to loose the Israeli defense forces on the Palestinians so that all the oppressed people who see this on television will know that this is what they intend to do to whoever decide to not obey the colonizer. So we want to know that, and this is important at this particular time because America is broke, and a lot of people don't know that they attacked Venezuela and they attacked Iran because Iran and Venezuela are suppliers of oil to China, and China was lending America trillions of dollars, and the money that they was lending to America is in the form of buying treasury bonds, and by China having been a principal buyer of the treasury bonds, it has enabled America to do deficit spending. And that is to say, America has been broke for a while, and they have been able to keep up the appearance of normalcy because of China buying the treasury bonds. So a year or so ago, China decided to not buy the treasury bonds, and then a lot of people, countries in the global south, are not buying the treasury bonds. So that's leaving America broke. And America has had to cut food stamps. They have cut people off food stamps. So this is to say how serious it is for them to be broke. And they have cut $1 trillion off the Medicaid budget. So this is to communicate how serious it is. And as you know, yesterday or the day before, Trump took the billionaires over to China to let them know that, by you not buying the treasury bonds, you're going to cause all of these billionaires a lot of problems, and you're going to cause a lot of problems in America. And that is why they was cutting off the jugular veins, the oil jugular veins of Venezuela and Iran. And they hope that Iran would submit and stop selling oil to China, but Iran hasn't submitted. And our president, Brother Nicolas Maduro, they kept bombing those so-called narco boats to communicate to him that they intended to make him submit, or they was going to kill him. And so our president, Nicolas Maduro, refused to submit, and that was very brave of him. And his wife, they had to physically fight. The American forces had to physically fight Maduro and first combatant Cecilia, his wife, and she suffered bodily injuries, and she suffered a head injury that caused her to get 25 stitches. They fought. So that is what happened. They did not just give up. And as I say, they was trying to get get Maduro to stop selling oil to China. He refused to do that. They tried to get Iran to stop selling oil to China. They refused to do that because they want to make China again buy American treasury bonds. But our people, the global south, we are moving off the dollar. And so we are, the global south is no longer buying the American treasury bonds, and that is preventing America to continue the deficit spending. So when the budget time come around in October, I think we're going to be see some very shocking things. And I think that's why the billionaire colonizers have told the Israeli Defense Forces to mercilessly attack the Palestinians to show all the oppressed people around the world that if you don't obey, this is what will happen to you. So and also with the Israelis are passing a law that enables them to execute the Palestinian resistors. I think that is because the Israelis are afraid that they are going to lose this war. The Israelis and the American colonizers are going to lose these wars. And so they figure their last hope is to take the fear that the colonizer has and put that fear in the Palestinian people so that would paralyze them with fear and that will enable the colonizers to win. I think that's what's going on. And so I think our people are going to hold out and we're going to continue to win. So we just have to continue to do that and unite our forces. And then for us experienced revolutionaries to be available to answer the questions that the people have. And I think we're going to physically win very shortly.
Thank you very much, Brother Tariq. And I do agree with you 100% on that. They are so scared of us being unified. They are so scared of us having nothing to lose, but be liberated, but live in dignity. So thank you so much for your contribution, Brother Tariq. Now we will be moving to the next topic, which is the what worked before and what didn't, and the lesson learned. What strategies have been successful and can work now to help free remaining 3 Black Panther political prisoners and the 10,000 Palestinian hostages? The Palestinians' efforts to free Palestinian hostages legally and popularly, and some case studies from the Black Panthers party, and legal advices, challenges, and ways to support now. And I have a very special guest today with us, who is the Palestinian lawyer and attorney Khalid Mahajna, who's specialized in the defense of Palestinian prisoners. He works with the Commission of Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs, representing prisoners and advocating for their rights under international law. He gained international recognition in 2024 as the first Palestinian lawyer to visit the secret Israeli torture facility, Sidi Timam, where he documented testimonies about detention conditions. Attorney Mahajna is widely recognized for his work on prisoners' rights, legal accountability, and justice for detainees. And if I may, I will just repeat myself very quickly in Arabic for our guest, Attorney Khalid. أهلا وسهلا فيك أستاذ خالد، شرفتنا اليوم. رح نحكي إن شاء الله عن الاستراتيجيات اللي أثبتت نجاحها ويمكن إنها تنجح اليوم للمساعدة تحرير السجناء السياسيين والجهود الفلسطينية لتحرير الرهائن الفلسطينيين قانونيا وشعبيا، ونصائح قانونية وتحديات طرق الدعم الممكنة حاليا بهذا الوضع. تفضل أستاذ خالد.
طيب، مساء الخير لكم وشكرا بالفعل على هاي الاستضافة، وشكرا لك يافا، وبالفعل إعطاء مساحة للحديث عن مواضيع الأسرى والمعتقلين في هذا العالم بشكل عام، وبالفعل تخصيص مساحة للحديث عن معاناة الأسرى العرب والفلسطينيين داخل السجون الإسرائيلية. ولكن بهذه المناسبة يعني اسمحوا لي، بالفعل أنا سعيد إني أرى
I'm very happy to be here and speak to Mr. Mudarada, and very happy of his freedom.
كنت أحد طاقم الدفاع المدافعين عنه وقت نفق الحرية، ونقلنا روايته الإنسانية، روايات
to see him in his present form is very grateful that he has become who he is after what he was subjected through.
والبحث عن الحرية بعد
to search for freedom within the prison walls is very difficult, and it is praised every day because of their strength. So one of the strategies that we are implementing for our prisoners
بعد عدم وجود أفق
without
السجان الإسرائيلي وعند
really
إسرائيل
any
بأن
help from
تقوم
the
هي
government
عنوة
for some
بفتح
sort of
أبواب
working around it,
المعتقلات وتحرير الأسرى
is
أن يكون
that
الأسرى بأنفسهم بالنزاع الحرية.
we talk about
يعني
their
في الواقع
testimony,
الكل
which
يعي
has
عمليا
helped
في هذا العالم الأوضاع
everybody
الصعبة
to be
المأساوية
aware of what they're going
التي
on,
يعاني منها الأسرى
what's going on
الفلسطينيين داخل
inside
السجون
with the
الإسرائيلية.
Palestinian prisoners
أنا
in
واحد
Israeli prisons.
من مئات المحامين
One
الذين
of
ننظر
the
يوميا
hundreds of
معاناة
lawyers
الأسرى
that
داخل
go there
السجون،
every day
ولكن
to
بعد
see the
الحرب على
prisoners'
غزة
condition. And after
الحرب
the
على
Gaza
الأسرى
war,
الفلسطينيين
which started,
أخذت
there was a
مناحي أخرى
war with the
ومناحي صعبة
prisoners that's
جدا
still ongoing.
لم نتخيلها، لا أنا كمحامي
You
ولا حتى
cannot
أسرى فلسطينيين عاشوا
imagine as a
في
human
السجون
or a
الإسرائيلية
lawyer
حتى 7 من
to
أكتوبر
even
ما يعنيه الأسرى
explain to
اليوم.
you what they go through every day.
هذا العالم يعي بالعناوين مما
The
تمارسه
world
إسرائيل
has
بشكل
no
محقق،
idea of
ولكن
what is
لا يعي
happening,
هذا العالم
and
تفاصيل
they have no idea of the
الكارثة
details
والدمار
that they
الذي
go
يمارس
through
بحق الأسرى
inside the concentration
من
camps,
أجويع الأسرى. أكثر
from
من 100
starvation.
أسير لا تبحثهم
Over
داخل السجون
100
الإسرائيلية بسبب الجوع
prisoners
والأمراض.
are subjected to starvation and diseases.
أسرى لم يبدلوا ملابسهم
They
منذ
don't
أشهر
even
طويلة.
change their clothes, which
أسرى يجبروا على
causes skin
الخروج إلى
diseases.
ساحة المعتقلات وهم عراة.
They are
تخيلوا
constantly in the dark
مجندين ومجندات سجانين
and
ومسجانات
in
إسرائيليين
different positions
يجبرون
where their muscles
أسرى
are
رجال،
deteriorating.
أتحدث عن رجال على أن يكونوا عراة
They shower
داخل
with other
المعتقلات
people
وداخل
inside
ساحات
their
المعتقلات.
cells without ventilation
أسرى
and
يتم
privacy.
اعتداء عليهم جنسيا.
They are subjected
أسرى
to
يتم
sexual
اغتصابهم داخل
abuse
السجون ومعسكرات الجيش
inside the
الإسرائيلي.
prison of rape
لا
stories.
أتحدث فقط عن أسرى فلسطينيين، إنما أسرى عرب سوريين
So
وأسرى
there
لبنانيين
are also
في السجون
Syrian and
الإسرائيلية.
Lebanese prisoners that are in Israeli camps,
أسرى
prisons with the Palestinians, and
يتم حتى استعمال
prisoners.
منطق الطب الذي هو منطق
They
وقائي
even use
وعلاجي في هذا العالم، إنما إسرائيل تتعامل به كمنطق
there are
انتقامي
specific individual
وتعذيب بحق
diseases,
الأسرى.
and they use them against prisoners to
أسرى
deteriorate their health condition even
تقدم
more.
لهم عمليات
So
بدون
they
تخدير،
even
عمليات
do
جراحية
anesthetics
بدون تخدير.
without anesthetics. They do amputations
تبتر
without
أطرافهم
anesthetics.
بدون
They
تخدير.
cut off their hands and
هذا
feet
جزء
without
بسيط من
anesthetics,
معاناة
and that is
الأسرى.
just a small portion
وهنا
of what
آتي
the
إلى
prisoners go through.
الاستراتيجيات وما العمل.
And that's
هذه
a
فرصة
systematic strategy of
وهذا
what they
منبر
use
محترم لأن
inside
أنقل للعالم رسالة
the
الأسرى
jails
انقذونا من هذا الموت.
to
اليوم لا يمكن
basically
التعويل على
kill
القضاء
them, if
الإسرائيلي
not near
لإنهاء
death
معاناة
every day.
الأسرى. لا يمكن التعويل على المحاكم الإسرائيلية
So
أو على
they do
ولا على
not
حتى
let them
الأحزاب التي كانت
speak.
تسمى
They do
اليسارية
not let them
رعاية
open
حقوق
up to
الإنسان.
their families
التعويل
about
اليوم
their
هو
torture.
على أمرين.
And
الأمر عالميا أن
the
تجبر
world does
إسرائيل
not
عالميا
know
على وقف
any
الحرب على
idea.
الأسرى.
The only thing that has to change
وهناك
is the
وسائل
world to
دبلوماسية
pressure
وقانونية
Israel to
عديدة
change their
ممكن
laws
في
to the
نهاية
Palestinian
المطاف
prisoners,
إسرائيل أن تقوم بوقف الحرب
that
على
they
الأسرى
stop the
وجماهيريا
war that's ongoing to the prisoners,
على المستوى
and
الفلسطيني
hold
على المستوى العالمي.
possibility
على العالم
to
أن
reach
يخرج
at
وينتفض
least
لإنقاذ 10,000 أسير داخل
give the
السجون الإسرائيلية.
Palestinians their right just as every other prisoner even.
هؤلاء الإمكانيتين باعتقادي
Those
التي
are the
ممكن
two things that
تمارس
we
على
need
وقف
to
الحرب.
enforce.
وهنا أنهي
It's to stop
كل حروب
the
العالم ممكن
on
أن تنتهي
prisoners, or at least
كل
give them the
حروب العالم
treatment
فيها هدى
what
حروب
other
عالمية
prisons are
ولا
doing with
يعقل
their
أن الحرب
prisoners.
على الأسرى ما
So at
زالت
least
مستمرة حتى
we
اليوم بأبشع
alleviate
التفاصيل.
the
ونعطيك
continuous
الوقت
war
يمكن
and
نفصل أكثر.
intent to kill them basically inside the jails.
وشكرا.
And thank you.
شكرا أستاذ خالد. Thank you so much for this very valuable information. Catastrophic, but very good for us to know this situation inside prisons. حابة أرجع لك الأستاذ الأخ محمود على الشاشة. If we can bring back Mahmoud Al-Arda to the screen. Khalid was the attorney advocating for Mahmoud when he broke out of prison from Jalboua in 2014. At that time, but probably you did not have a chance to speak together. So أهلا وسهلا فيك محمود. أهلا مرة أخرى. جبنا لك المحامي خالد اللي هو كان يدافع عنك وقت بال 2014 لما طلعت من السجن جلبوع. فحبينا هيك نحطكم في الشاشة مرة ثانية مع بعض. وشكرا جزيلا لكم.
شكرا لك على شيرين وعلى الأستاذ الحبيب خالد محاجني.
انتم بتشرفونا.
رافقنا طول فترة العزل الانفرادي والمحاكم اللي قدمنا لها، وكان له يعني دور مهم هو ووالده وطاقم المحامين الآخرين اللي كانوا موفرين نفر الحرية. إخواننا لن ننساهم يعني جميعا.
يعني
شكرا لك.
يعني أنا سعيد أخي محمود.
I am very happy to be here to share this conversation with you in person because I could have been your lawyer while you were there. I'm very proud to be here. The person is who you are and what you've gone through. And we need to remind the world of your strength and what your resilience is, and how you will work hard to free all the other prisoners inside Israeli camps. And I'm very, very happy to know you. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who stood by us. It is a very good surprise to see you.
We are honored to have the freed prisoner Mahmoud Al-Arda, who broke out of prison with his own will, with a spoon, to break the arrogance of the prisoner of the occupation, and also for Khalid Mahajne, the attorney who was advocating for a prisoner and still ongoing advocating with all his strength despite all the struggles that he's facing in Palestine. شكرا كثير مرة أخرى للأستاذ خالد. شكرا على مداخلتك الطيبة.
Thank you very much to Mr. Khalid and to our guest Mr. Mahmoud.
هلا بنرجع لأخونا محمود. We will be back. Our next question to our brother Mahmoud Al-Arda is about the kids violation. It's from school to prison pipeline in America to the 350 children in Israeli dungeons, kids facing torture, sexual abuse, solitary confinement, and potential execution. How targeting children is intentional and aimed at destroying the future of communities and potential retaliation for the injustice they have faced. Akhi Mahmoud, I will translate in Arabic to Mahmoud, and then we'll be back to translation إن شاء الله. أخوي محمود اللي عفواً رح ننتقل لحزب Black Panther. We will be moving to the Black Panther to hear from our guest Duruba Al-Mujahid bin Wahad. Welcome again, Duruba. I will be repeating the same question to you, which is about the strategies that sorry, just the screen is not showing. The strategies that have been successful and can work now to help free the remaining 3 Black Panther political prisoners and the 10,000 Palestinian hostages from the Black Panther perspective. Thank you so much for coming, and you may take the floor.
Well, thank you. I think, in short, the type of strategies we have to use now are strategies that organize people where they are around the issues that relate to them in a way that they can understand that the political repression that people are suffering, the anti-immigrant sentiments that are sweeping the metropoles of the West, the replaying of old conspiracy indictments to indict activists for collaborating with, quote, designated terrorist organizations. All of these things have to be brought to the attention of the international bodies, such as the General Assembly of the United Nations Human Rights Commission. I think it's imperative that our various movements that many of us are involved in unify around a common agenda, unify around a common appeal, and designate those NGOs that have sympathy and that have some type of affinity to us and who oppose the genocide and the murder of Palestinian people to sponsor, to advocate that we be heard, that the issue of the Palestinian people, the genocide that's going on against the people, the murder of over 1,000 settlers, in the occupied territory, 1,700 settlers, Palestinians in the occupied territory, that these events, this behavior on the past part of the Palestinian the Zionist expansionist state be censored, that they come to the aid of the political prisoners who are teetering on death row, the brutality and inhumane treatment of Palestinian prisoners is being well documented by many different organizations and human rights bodies. This documentation, though, is going unanswered. It's going unpublished in the journals of the West. I think that's another thing that we need to do. We need to petition these establishment corporate newspapers to tell the story of our brothers and sisters who are being tortured in U.S. and Israeli prisons. I think that the voice of the young people in the last 2 years has risen to a crescendo, and that crescendo has forced the Israeli lobby in the United States to take a back foot, to step back and to try to regroup in order to influence the American people. I think we have to become more active as organizations and as a united front behind with the BDS movement that's outlawed in many states. The BDS movement has been doing good work. It has good roots in the legal apparatuses of different states. We need to go into these into the local arena and have city councils and referendums put on the ballot that demand free speech for advocates of Palestinian liberation, that demand that these cop cities that are being built and these police that are being trained with IDF and police forces from Shin Bet in the United States, that they discontinue these relationships. So there's a lot of work that we can do. And a lot of us are doing that work on our local levels in different cities. But I think it has to become more unified. It has to become more consistent. And we have to aim our efforts at the United Nations, at the African Union. The African Union is about to embark on a series of conferences and deliberations over the North Atlantic slave trade and the Holocaust. We need to show how this Holocaust that happened hundreds of years ago was a precursor to the Balfour Declaration that gave away the Palestinians and Arab lands to Israel, to these comprador classes in Lebanon. They divided up Lebanon, and so we know what the history is. We have to what I would say reverse engineer the propaganda that has come out of this history that's been hidden. I think our solidarity in this has to be focused towards the foremost international body on the planet, even though that body is somewhat neutralized and neutered. That's the United Nations. And so there are agencies, NGOs that have entree to the secretariats and the different bodies of the United Nations, and we need to pressure them to recognize the plight of our political prisoners and the danger the Palestinian political prisoners face under Zionist custody. Their lives are in danger as we speak. The Israelis are losing the war, so they intend to take as much blood from the Palestinian people as possible before they check out of here. So like Curtis Mayfield said, if there's a hell below, we all gonna go. So what we need to do is we need to stop this. We need to stand fast. We need to organize. We need to unify. And there are a lot of things that we've done in the past that we could do again. We can bring charges in the United Nations about in the various committees on imperialism, their solidarity with the Puerto Rican movement and with the Cubans. For every year they have hearings on the status of Puerto Rico. Every year there's petitions in the United Nations Human Rights Committee to address these issues, and we need to be very, very firm and steadfast on this. And finally, I want to say that in order to do any of this, in order to do the type of work we're doing, we have to identify support. We have to identify resources that will enable us to do the work that has to be done. The enemy has resources. They have money. They have billionaires, and they have the state apparatus of fascism to support their diplomacy and work in international arena. But we don't have those types of resources. All we have is each other. So we have to lend a hand to each other, empower each other, put each other in pocket to speak to our populations. I recently did a tour a couple of years ago across Europe, across Italy, Austria, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, and the sponsor was Dal Junub, an organization that's been steadfast in supporting political prisoners in the United States and steadfast in supporting the Palestinian struggle for liberation and national determination. It's these organizations that we have to pull in, we have to amplify, because they're under extreme pressure in the metropoles. We are under extreme pressure in suppression. So we have to pull together and unify in order to overcome that.
Thank you very much, Brother Ruba. Thank you for mentioning the organization that is doing an incredible work for the Palestinian struggle and the political prisoner struggle in general. Going back to the last section in our topic, we will be talking about these from school to the prison pipeline in America to the 350 children in Israeli dungeons. And we will be hosting also the freed prisoner Mahmoud al-Arda, as he was in prison when he was a child. So we will be talking also about the kids facing torture, sexual abuse, and solitary confinement and potential execution, and how targeting children is intentional and aimed at destroying the future of communities and potential retaliation for the injustice they have faced. But before we start this topic, I would like to, and I'm so sorry for not introducing our incredible interpreter, Noura Qasmiya, who is a Palestinian born in Kuwait. Her grandparents were displaced to Kuwait from Nakba of 48. She moved to the States after the Gulf War, and she is a mechanical engineer and joins weekly protests in her town to advocate for Palestine. Thank you so much, Noura, for your efforts.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Do we have Mahmoud with us? أهلا وسهلا مجددا أخي محمود. أخي محمود رح نحكي رح نحكي إن شاء الله عن خط الأنابيب الممتد من المدرسة إلى السجن في أمريكا ل 350 طفل في الزنازين الإسرائيلية. أطفالنا واجهوا التعذيب والاعتداء الجنسي والحبس الانفرادي واحتمال حتى الإعدام. فبدنا نحكي كيف إنه استهداف الأطفال يتم بشكل متعمد ويهدف لتدمير مستقبل مجتمعنا واللي بينتج عنه من ردود فعل بسبب الظلم اللي تعرضوا له. تفضل.
طبعا الحديث عن الأطفال يعني هذه
So the discussion about children in the camps is very severe. The children, we have to understand that they're losing their childhood entirely, and their entire childhood are taken away from them for intentionally and there's a group of children that have disappeared from Gaza that were taken to the Israeli prisons. So until now, the children, there's no evidence of where these children have gone because their disappearance is every day from their towns. And this is a strategic Israeli routine to not provide any information where they are because they're held in secretive locations. And they're in Israeli jails. There's no information about them. They're kidnapped and abducted from Gaza by soldiers every day. And they're now allowed to even speak up about what's happening. So specifically, the children that are imprisoned from Gaza are going through severe torture amongst those 300 children from the West Bank as well. Specifically, the torture against the children is systematic, and they use the October 7th happening as a reason to punish them more because of the events. So they use that as a reason to subject them to worse torture as a punishment, collective punishment means. The children are subjected to every day severe beatings, and many children have been martyred because their bodies are so young they can't withstand the pain that they have died under Israeli jails. And not only the beatings, but the diseases and the negligence, because some of them come in with illnesses, but they don't give them, their medicine, which deteriorates their health, and the children end up dying. So up until today, they use whatever means they can to punish the children every day, and with every means they can to make their lives and their emotions in psychological warfare on the children. They're not allowed to speak with other people. They're put in solitary confinements, just like adults. So they go through the same torture as the adults do, and Israeli soldiers do not give them a special treatment because they're children. They subject them to the same violence as the adults from young as 12. Get abducted and are put in these jails, and they abduct them specifically at a young age because it inhibits their mental development from growing because of the torture that they subject them to. So it also prevents them from developing mentally because they go through the abuse, and after their speech impairments and mobility issues. They don't allow doctors to see them to improve their condition after their torture. So the children, it's very difficult for the children themselves because they're so young and they're not as strong as adults are. They can be resilient, and being subjected to the torture every day is systematic to impair their development, specifically at their young age, to inhibit them from growing and fighting for themselves and fending for themselves when they grow up, if the chance occurs that they release before adulthood. So I hear stories between the prisoners speaking about other children and what they go through inside jail cells, and it's horrific. They are kids, and they're criminal charge for absolutely nothing.
جزيلا أخي محمود. Thank you so much for your contribution today. شكرا على كل المعلومات اللي أعطيتنا إياها اليوم. Also, let's not forget the child Ahmed Manasra, who was imprisoned, attacked by the Israeli police in Jerusalem in 2013, and his cousin was killed in front of him, and he was taken hostage while he was 13 years old. Spent 6 years in solitary confinement until he developed a severe mental health condition. And also so many children were detained at a very young age without even proper representation from lawyers or even seeing their parents. I would like to call for the same question, Brother Tariq, to talk about the kids' situation inside detention facilities and sexual assault and special execution. This is for Palestinians, but also from your perspective, how targeting children is intentional and aimed at destroying the future of communities, potential retaliation for the injustice they face. Please.
I'm sorry, you was breaking up. I was trying to hear what you were saying, but I could go on. I'm sorry.
So the subject is about kids tortured. Kids tortured inside detention facilities and targeting them in the intention. Yes.
Okay, so as I said, they have torture units in the American prisons, and I was placed in a number of those torture units. And as I say, they have different cells associated with different experiences. And they also they keep the lights on 24 hours a day, but they have shining big floodlights in certain units that cause you much discomfort when you see these floodlights. And then they play the music so loud that when we used to go to court and ride by the prison, we could hear how loud the speakers was. They used to play the music 24 hours a day, and they would play it very, very loud. That is a torture experience, and that's a torture experience that I know that they carry out in African countries. The French finance clubs in African countries, in the African neighborhoods and cities, and these clubs play this music real loud 24 hours a day to keep the people up and to keep them disturbed. So that was the torture unit. And when I was in the control unit in Marion Prison, the most maximum security prison in the United States at that time, the guards used to run by my cell and say, "Kill yourself, commit suicide," like that. But and they were kept like political prisoners alone, and you're supposed to be in an area where other prisoners are at, but they would separate us and like that. And they also set you up to be killed in the prison, and you had to deal with that. So that's some of the things that the authorities do, and we had to survive that. Of course, on the street, The authorities killed my nephew. A police car ran over him, and like in the George Floyd case, the sister who recorded that killing, the police killing George Floyd, they killed her uncle. The police ran into him with a police car and killed him. In my case, the police ran into my nephew with a police car and killed him. So that America is a terroristic place, and the terroristic apparatus that permit them to do that is the nuclear family. And the nuclear family, when you have a father who believes that he is a superior one and the wife and the children are inferior one, then there's something wrong with that particular person. And that particular person will turn out persons who will perpetuate the system because they would be messed up. So that like for instance in Germany, they have the alternate political party of Germany. One of the things, the pillars that they advocate is the traditional family, and the man is the head of the household. He is the superior one, and the other persons, the wife and the children, are the subordinates. And that's important for turning out these people. And these people are insane, and they want to hurt people and they want to kill people. So that by us appealing to them, that's really a hopeless venture. So we want to know that, and we want to know that we revolutionaries are advocating going back to the modeling method of raising children. You don't tell your child nothing what to do. And like in Mumia's case, he became an award-winning journalist, and he was an avid reader because he used to watch. His father knew about this training method, and he would let Mumia see him reading the newspaper and see his wife reading the newspaper. And that inclined Mumia to be an avid reader without saying, boy, you got to stop all this playing, and it's time for you to learn this and that. And that is a dictatorial way of training children, how they train children in America. And that's why the racists come out of these households already thinking in terms of superiority and inferiority situations. They are familiar with it from their home situation. So we revolutionaries have to know that we want to have equal parent and household so that we would turn out loving people. But America is a torture place. And as I said about the Palestinians, they're using the Palestinians as an illustration. And they let the Israeli Defense Forces go on the Palestinian people to use them as the Palestinians as an illustration to all oppressed people who refuse to obey. And it's important, that illustration is very important at this time. They are pulling out the big guns. They are going back to the mass terror situation as they did in the past because America is broke. And they Trump and took the billionaires to China to try to get China to again buy American bonds so that America continues to do deficit spending, but China is not cooperating. And many countries in the global south are weaning themselves off the dollar, and they're dealing with the Chinese currency, and they're dealing with the new financial arrangement that the BRIC people are setting up. And so America is going to be broke. They are not going to have the money. They're going to make some very ill decisions, some bad decisions in terms of us oppressed people. We are going to be, they're going to cut off a lot of programs, and they're going to fire people from their jobs. And they know that we are going to, the people are going to resist that. And so that is what is going on. And so we want to let our people know that how the billionaires think about them, and then they'll know that the best course of action to take is a revolutionary course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Tarek. This is very much valuable to share.
Thank you everyone for joining and hosting, and all our amazing speakers. It's such an honor to have everyone here and share all these really deep personal experiences and figure out, how we can take constructive actions. And so let's get to the action part and how everyone here can get involved and do something to help out and to help free the political prisoners. So we wanted to highlight some campaigns to amplify. There's Marwan Barghouti's campaign at freemarwan.org, Dr. Hussam Abu Safia's campaign, freehussam.org, international campaign to free Kamau Sadiki, freekamau.com, Free Mumia campaign, freemumia.com, the Kenny Zulu Whitmore campaign, freezulu.org, and then also Uniting for Peace resolution, which is through the UN General Assembly. It's more than just for the prisoners, but it includes freeing the political prisoners as well. So that's through the United Nations, which has been brought up as well. Another action that we've thought of doing is also having letters, encouraging more people to write letters, and maybe doing a letter exchange between the veteran Black Panthers and the Palestinian prisoners and the Palestinian groups and the veteran Black Panthers. So, and then Yafa, do you want to read 3 and 4, the upcoming actions?
Yes, thank you so much, Karina. It's actually very important to mention that on the 4th of June, it will be an International Day of Innocent Child Celebration, child hostage campaign by the Red Ribbon Campaign. This is worth remembering that 350 children who are abducted and tortured on a daily basis, just like adults. So in this day, we need to reach the level of crime committed, which means to consider your own child abducted by the IOM along with the Palestinian children. What would you do in that case? So be creative, amplify the campaign, and speak on behalf of the children who are unable to see the light. Yeah, this is in terms of the campaigns. However, in terms of the organization to support, we have the JERIC movement, we have the Red Ribbon campaigns organization, we have Freedom for Palestinian Political Prisoners, Spirit of Mandela, RPP Release Aging Political Prisoners, and Prison Lives Matters. We will share this in the chat, right, Rina?
Yes, and we will share it in the chat, but we will definitely have a flyer with all this information to be shared after this as well. So I think that's about it. We're actually very over time, so thank you so much, Kalonji and Black Power Media. And I also want to make sure everyone knows that Brother Shep was having technical difficulties. He was here, but unfortunately we had to improvise.
Maybe next event we'll have Brother Shep.
So much part of this, and he, you know, it was not his fault. So we love you, Brother Shep, and thank you so much to all of our special guests. Such an honor to hear all these stories. It's such a deep conversation, and it's such an honor to have everyone that's been here and to share and you know, hopefully we can mobilize and unifying these movements and strengthening our movements, bringing them together to really amplify and achieve freeing these political prisoners, and especially right now the Palestinians that are, you know, facing you know, execution and God knows what. So we need to really step it up, and you know, this is one way of doing that, by spreading information, which was something that came up a couple of times in our meetings. So also join the meetings. We're going to keep doing these weekly global assemblies, which is how this all came together. So get involved in organizations, and let's keep it up. Let's keep rising to free them all. So just want to end with the Asada Shakur chant. Can we have everyone on the screen together? Still here. Beautiful. So let's all unmute. Can we unmute everybody? Amazing. So I love to end with Asada Shakur's chant. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose without change.
Free Kamau Sadiki, free Zulu Whitmore, free Mumia Abu Jamal, and free all the 10,000 Palestinian prisoners. Free them all. All power to the people.
Free them all. All power to the people.
All power to the
Free them
people.
all.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
I greet you in an unexpected language. Amba, I greet you in an unexpected language. That's the greeting by the Amazulu, the Zulus of South Africa. And I speak to you and greet you, Black Power Radio and Black Power Media, for the work that you're doing for liberation for us all. I've read about you recently by reading the work of Joy James. And congratulations. Keep on doing what you're doing. Do it bigger, do it blacker, do it stronger. With love, not fear. This is Mumia Abu Jamal. Amba.